I would like to invite CA Sunil Sangvi sir to come on the dais. I would like to invite CA Purushottam Khandelwar sir to come on the dais. And I would like to request Mr. Vallabh Iyer to be on the dais. CA Dr. Avinash Poddar is a chartered accountant turned advocate. He qualified as a chartered accountant in 2000 and has established firm APV and Associates. Initially working in direct taxation, auditing and software development. Dr. Poddar shifted his focus to service tax and excise in 2008, recognizing the growth and potential in the service sector. In 2017, he surrendered his CA practice to become an advocate, founding Messrs. Ashwa Legal Advisors LLP to practice litigation before higher judicial forums, including the High Court and Supreme Court.
With this, I would like to call our eminent speaker, CA Dr. Avinash Poddar sir, to grace us on the topic GST a way ahead.
Please give him a big round of applause.
A very good afternoon to all of you. I understand this is a post-lunch session, which is always a challenging session. But the topic which is given to me is certainly going to help you in understanding that once you qualify as a chartered accountant, what is the way forward for you in case you are interested into practicing of GST. So let the other participants come and get settled. We'll be starting our deliberation. Because of the paucity of time, I need to start it because already we are running late. So are you all ready? Whosoever is in the conference hall as of now, please try to be with me. I know it is going to be difficult after the session of Sneh Desai, after the lunch, it is certainly going to be difficult. But at the same time, this is something which is going to be very, very important for each one of us being a CA student or a CA aspirant. I am given to understand that there are students who have qualified intermediate and they are into finals. And I am also given to understand that there are certain students who are doing intermediate and therefore they might not have started the articleship. But other students who are into final, they are certainly into the articleship process also. And I am expecting, or rather I am apprehending that they have already started filing their GST returns for their clients or the clients of their office. Tell me, how many of you have already joined articleship? Okay. And how many of you have still not joined articleship or are about to join? Okay. So it's a mix, it's a blend of both. So I need to restructure this session accordingly. Now let me ask you one question. How many of us know about GST? Knowing doesn't mean knowing about the subject, knowing about the content of the subject. I'm asking how many of us have read GST, GST law. Okay. So that will make my task easy. See, when we talk about the way forward for GST, we need to understand what has been done till date in GST. So till date, 7 years of implementation of GST. Now, for the very first time, we are facing lots and lots of litigation, lots and lots of notices which are being thrown to the taxpayers. And therefore, till date, what we were doing, we were just compiling the data, filing the returns, filing the annual returns, and then the department has started conducting audits. Now once the audit is conducted or once the scrutiny of returns has been done, now this is the stage that you have complied with all the returns that were supposed to be filed for 2017-18 till date. You have complied with the annual returns to be filed. You have complied with the audit to be done by the department, and at the same time there are a lot of scrutiny notices which you have complied with. So now the way forward is facing those notices, how to handle those notices. So because of the limited time I have, I'll try to endeavor and delve into one very important aspect of dealing with the notices. How to deal with the notice. See, there is an important terminology which we all understand and which is said to be principles of natural justice. How many have heard this? कितने लोगों ने सुना है principles of natural justice? There is a चिड़िया, there is a bird known as principles of natural justice. कितने लोगों ने सुना है? Please raise your hand. आजा चलिए. Let me ask one another question. आपके लेवल पे जाके मैं एक क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ. अगर आपके पेरेंट्स ने आपके अगेंस्ट में कोई डिसीजन लिया, I am asking you a very simple question. If any of your parent takes a decision, or any of your teacher or any of your friend takes a decision which goes contrary to your willingness or your belief, what would you say? आपका आंसर क्या होगा? मेरे से बिना पूछे कैसे आपने ये डिसाइड किया? Yes or no? You have to be louder please, क्योंकि अभी आप लोगों को ही फिल करना पड़ेगा जो गैप है स्टूडेंट्स का. Yes or no? So that is something which is principles of natural justice that you are commanding for. The opportunity that you are asking before taking any decision against you, the opportunity you are asking for is to explain yourself, to explain your contentions, to explain why you have filed those returns, to explain why there is no tax liability which is not paid by you. So therefore, this is very, very important aspect in life which is said to be principles of natural justice which needs to be complied with. In case the principles of natural justice does not get complied with, any order or any proceeding which has been done by the department becomes a bad proceedings. So therefore, first going forward would be litigation. Aaj morning mein you have heard that session of the GST wherein there were 3 paper presenters, yes or no? So they have touched upon controversies in GST and at the same time they have touched upon litigation in GST. Now please be with me and try to understand this. Whenever something new happens, there are a lot of contradictory views, yes or no? GST also is new. So when GST is new, it is bound to have the contradictory views, it is bound to have the controversial issues. And now when the controversial issues are getting raised in various forums by the departmental authorities, then that will lead to a lot of notices which have been served to all the taxpayers. And when the taxpayers receive those notices, they have to reply back to those notices. And that is the birth of litigation. So the first thing which I would like to share from this podium, when I am given a topic of GST, a way forward, I would say the next step is not the compliance. The next step is litigation. And therefore we all the students, all the chartered accountants, everyone have to be prepared, has to be prepared for the litigation, which is going to be the next buzz, I would say, because GST is full of litigations and it is bound to have a lot of litigation. Reason being, एक नया लॉ है एंड जब भी कुछ लाइफ में नया होता है, जब भी कुछ नया लॉ इम्प्लीमेंट होता है, एक छोटा सा आप नया डिसीजन लेते हैं तो उसमें भी डिस्प्यूट होता है आपके घर में. ये एक ऐसा लॉ है जो पूरी इंडिया में इम्पैक्ट कर रहा है. सो सर्टेनली इट इज गोइंग टू हैव अ बिग इम्पैक्ट एंड देयरफॉर लॉट ऑफ लिटिगेशन इज गोइंग टू कम. दिस इज वन. सेकेंड, हाउ मेनी ऑफ अस हैव हर्ड द टर्म आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस? Okay. Tomorrow I think there is a session also on artificial intelligence. Now kindly be with me for next 2-3 minutes. I am requesting each one of you because this is something which you will gain as a new perspective. See, every speaker will come and speak about the all traditional and the conceptual things. But there are certain perspectives which we need to capture and take away. So a perspective which I am willing to share here is that Artificial intelligence is also going to play an important role when we are talking about GST a way forward. What is artificial intelligence? You try to develop an intelligent product or intelligent software, I would say, wherein certain commands, if given, he will use his intelligence and derive an outcome which will have a sensible meaning. Yes or no? आवाज बंद हो गई बिल्कुल. Thank you. See, लंच के बाद जगा के रखने का और कोई तरीका नहीं है. I'll have to keep everybody involved by saying yes or no. So therefore, artificial intelligence is a product, or I would say an intelligence which is given to a product or to a software. When given a command, it will give some sensible output on the basis of the research which is already plugged in. But something which is not plugged in, can it give it a sensible result? अगर आपने कुछ इनपुट ही नहीं दिया या कोई रिसर्च मटेरियल डाला ही नहीं, तो क्या वो आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस सॉफ्टवेयर वो प्रोडक्ट का आउटपुट देगा? Yes or no? Tell me yes or no. It will not give, correct? So therefore, please bear in mind, you need to have an clear-cut distinction in your mind that what can help you with artificial intelligence and what cannot. So therefore, when it comes to filing of return, when it comes to generation of a report, when it comes to drafting of a reply, a notice is sent to you that there is a difference between the returns that you have filed and your books of accounts. So you can design an artificial intelligence tool saying that मैं अपने returns का data डाल दूंगा, मैं अपने audit report का data डाल दूंगा, financial data डाल दूंगा. Both the data will be inputted into the software and then they will be using the intelligence which is given to them, and accordingly they will draft a reply saying that these are the reasons of the difference. Are you agreeing to this? So meaning thereby there has to be an input to get an output. But when it comes to litigation, which I have already shared that the first step which I would say is litigation. Second step which I have already commenced is artificial intelligence. So when you will apply this artificial intelligence into litigation, I am afraid artificial intelligence tool may not be helpful for that. And this is something which is very, very relevant for each of the student to understand. आपके गूगल की सर्च से आपको डेटा मिलता है, लेकिन प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड डेटा के साथ आपको गार्बेज भी मिलता है. एंड यू नीड टू डिस्टिंग्विश बिटवीन द गार्बेज एंड द मीनिंगफुल डेटा. Unless you are able to have a clear-cut isolation of data which is meaningful for you, the garbage cannot be used. And the same is going to happen when we'll apply the artificial intelligence tool into litigation. Because in litigation, when I say, or rather when I will share, in litigation, we always have a different facts. And for each of the facts, there are different arguments to be built in. There are different process or there are different provisions of the law to be implemented. And unless we implement those provisions, we will not be able to substantiate before the authorities, or rather I would say make our case. So therefore, I personally believe, I am repeating this once again, I personally believe that yes, GST a way forward certainly has a lot of litigations, but the litigations does not mean that artificial intelligence tool can be used and litigation can be handled. Are you all with me? Litigation cannot be handled by artificial intelligence tool. This is my personal belief. With lot of conviction I am saying, with lot of caution I am saying. So therefore, please do not depend on any artificial intelligence tool. You can depend on the research work. You can depend on the case laws. आप case laws search कर सकते हैं उसमें से. You can have thousands and thousands of case laws plugged in or inputted into the system, and then on a particular question, The case laws can be selected out of it. That is certainly usable. But when we come to drafting and arguments pleading, then that artificial intelligence tool will not play the important role. So therefore, second I would say is artificial intelligence, which can be used for drafting of replies to the notices, but which cannot be used for making it applicable to the litigation. Third, now we are into a world which is opening up, right? Into a world which is opening up. Now we are not restricted or we are not limited only to the territories of India. हम बाहर भी services अपनी provide कर रहे हैं, yes or no? So when we have to provide services outside the country, please bear in mind, we need to be conversant about the international laws, yes or no? Unless we are conversant between the integration of the international law and the domestic law, we will not be able to perform. We will not be able to drag the data which we want and perform the compliances which are imposed on the taxpayer who is making an international transaction. So therefore, the third and most important role which is going to be played now onwards by the GST would be international laws vis-a-vis Indian GST law. Because there is an European VAT. When we interject a transaction with a multinational company who is there in Europe, so for them European VAT is applicable, and when we come to India, the branch of that multinational company, it is the Indian law which is applicable. We need to be conversant with both the laws to comply with Indian GST, I would say. So therefore, the third aspect which I would like to emphasize upon would be the international laws, the knowledge of the international VAT laws. How many countries have VAT? What kind of VAT is applicable in multiple countries? How it is impacting an international transaction when it comes to GST in India vis-a-vis VAT outside India, because that is something which is very, very important when we are drafting a contract. And therefore, the fourth aspect which I am looking forward for GST as a way forward would be the drafting of contracts, the drafting of agreements between cross-border transaction or between the companies who are, one is situated in India and the other one is situated outside India. So for that also, for drafting an agreement also, you need to be very well acquainted with the international laws. Not only VAT laws, not only Indian GST law, but also various other allied laws. So therefore, fifth aspect which I would like to touch upon here would be, friends, you all are reading the subjects or the laws which are there in your curriculum very well. You have to do that because finally your aim is to become a chartered accountant. But I would also say that if you want to practice in GST, return filing is going to go away. जो आज हम लोग कर रहे हैं पिछले 7 सालों से, it is going to be completely obsolete, I would say, because everything will be done by machine. Now e-invoices are there, it will automatically fill the returns will be automatically uploaded. You are not supposed to play any important role into that, barring checking the data or cross-checking the entire data. So therefore, having an edge not only on the GST laws to practice GST, but also on the allied laws which are applicable to GST is something which is very important. I'll give you an example. For example, you are drafting a contract for a construction company, or you are drafting an agreement for a construction company. You will not be in a position to draft that contract for a construction company unless you have knowledge of income tax along with GST, unless you have knowledge of Contract Act along with GST, unless you have knowledge of Transfer of Property Act under GST, unless you have knowledge of Easement Act under GST. So therefore, when we are talking about GST a way forward, it is not only restricted to GST law. Please bear in mind. it goes much beyond that, because GST cannot be practiced. GST cannot be practiced without the knowledge of allied laws. So please bear in mind, friends, have an edge on GST, but at the same time you should have a working knowledge of all the laws which are applicable to a particular industry or to a particular entrepreneur when it comes to allied laws. आपको Contract Act भी मालूम होना चाहिए, आपको Transfer of Property Act भी मालूम होना चाहिए, and multiple laws are mandatory for you all to have a working knowledge. I am not saying you are supposed to have an expert knowledge, but yes, you must have a working knowledge. So therefore, let us try to recapitulate. First, I have said that the way forward is litigation. Yes? Second, artificial intelligence. But my personal belief, maybe many of us who are sitting here, many of the seniors who are there in the hall would not be agreeing to me or will not be agreeing to me, but I am very clear that litigation and artificial intelligence cannot go together. Because for litigation, you need to have pleadings. For litigation, you need to have expert knowledge. For litigation, you need to have the knowledge of various provisions which are applicable. And therefore, artificial intelligence tool can help you in researching, but it cannot help you in drafting. So therefore, second very important aspect is AI, artificial intelligence, which can be used for drafting of notices, but not for litigation drafting. That means you cannot draft appeals into it. For appeals, you need to have your own individual learned knowledge. These two aspects, as per me, are very, very important when it comes to the GST way forward. And third is globalization, and therefore knowledge of various laws along with GST law. And when it comes to knowledge of various laws, I have divided into two parts. One, knowledge of VAT laws of other countries vis-a-vis Indian GST. And the second aspect is knowledge of allied laws along with the GST. Merely having a knowledge of GST, because हम हर बार सुनते हैं कि ये GST expert है. अभी in hall I can recognize Palak sir is sitting. So he is an expert of income tax. This shows your popularity, sir. He is an expert in income tax. But I am sure he will agree that income tax cannot be practiced unless we have knowledge of allied laws. And same way, GST cannot be practiced unless we have knowledge of allied laws. It's very simple. So merely reading will not help us. Merely reading GST will not help us. Along with GST, we need to read a lot of other laws. And this reading habit will come not only with meeting with the curriculum which we have as a student, but also going over and above that. And for that, I'll recommend a lot of other books to be read. Maybe burden of proof, you can read a book. You can read a book on how to plead. So these are not in our courses, but these are the books which are very, very important when we want to practice GST, because GST में अब returns नहीं है. Return filing is no more there. It is going to be automated within a short while. So as a chartered accountant, we cannot expect that we will practice as a return filing professional. That is going to go away. So we have to practice either as a professional who is giving advice. So last but not the least, because of the time which is given to me, 5 minutes? I've said 30 minutes. I'll complete. Okay. So last but not the least, I'll try to cover this. Most important role of now we professionals in GST would be advisory. See, please understand, again I will go to Palak sir. For income tax, the completion of year is very important. Yes or no? साल खत्म होगा, उसके बाद आप ऑडिट करेंगे, बुक्स बनाएंगे, उसके बाद आप अपनी रिटर्न्स भरेंगे इनकम टैक्स की. Yes or no? So advice also is taken generally by the taxpayers after the completion of the year. अगर पहले ले लेंगे तो प्रॉब्लम नहीं आएगा, लेकिन पहले नहीं लेते हैं इनकम टैक्स में. They will always come, सर मैंने एक कर दिया, अभी बताओ क्या करना है. That is something which is very unfortunate, but this is what is happening. But if we do this in indirect tax, which is GST, then we are inviting a closure to our business, I would say. आपका business बंद हो जाएगा सर. So therefore the advisory in GST is going to play a very, very important role now onwards, because advisory under GST is real time. You know the difference between real time and the post-mortem. Income tax filing is post-mortem as per me. When it comes to return filing, not the advisory. Similarly, audit is post-mortem. But GST is a real time. So advisory in GST is going to be the way forward for new chartered accountants, upcoming chartered accountants, and therefore please focus on advisory. Please focus on creating a skill wherein you can serve as an advisor, you can serve as an health checker, you can check the health of the organization, whether the compliances are met meticulously as per the requirement of the law or not. In case not, then the repercussions are huge. I would say huge. Because in GST there are powers of arrest, there is huge offense provisions, penalty provisions, 100% to the extent of 100%. For example, मैं आपको एक छोटा सा example देता हूँ, आप समझ जाएंगे. आपका turnover 1 करोड़ है. Be with me for 2 minutes and try to understand this. You will come to know the difference between the income tax and the GST and the real-time advisory importance. Your turnover is 1 crores, only simple turnover of 1 crores. You have discharged your liability at the rate of 5%. 5 lakh रुपए आपने collect किया, भर दिया. Now tomorrow the department comes कि sir, you have paid as 5%, but this is not the right rate of tax which is applied. The right rate of tax is 18%, and therefore you are supposed to pay 18 lakhs, wherein you have paid only 5 lakhs. So there is a difference of how much? How much? 18 minus 5? 13 lakhs is the difference. Now you will have to pay 13 lakhs along with interest, along with 100% of penalty. Are you all with me? 13 lakhs along with 100% of penalty, which is again 13 lakhs, and maybe some interest of 2-3 lakhs. So it will be 13 lakhs will become at least 30 lakhs. 30 lakhs will have to be paid out of your own pocket when you are having a turnover of 1 crore rupees. And you have a profit, let's say, of 10%. तो आपने 10 लाख रुपए का टैक्स दिखाया, उसमें 30% के हिसाब से 3 लाख रुपए टैक्स भरा, तो 7 लाख रुपए का इनकम हुआ. How you will pay 30 lakhs when you have earned 7 lakhs? Can you pay this? Tell me, can you pay this? When your earning is 1 rupee, can you pay 5 rupees? This is the impact of real-time advisory under GST. And that is the way forward. Because you have to act as an advisor, not as a compiler of return. Gone those days. Those days are not there now. Because everything is like captured by artificial intelligence and the software. So everything is going to be taken away. The only thing which will remain with you as a professional, as a chartered accountant, would be your knowledge and the advisory capacity. So अगर वो आपके पास पहले एडवाइस के लिए आया होता तो आपने उसको बोला होता कि सर 5% नहीं 18% लगेगा, 13 लाख रुपए आप भर दो, कलेक्ट करके भरो. तो अगर उसने कलेक्ट करके भरा होता तो 7 लाख पूरा उसके घर में प्रॉफिट बचता, मेरे एग्जाम्पल में. जो अभी उसको 7 lakhs और उसको शायद अपना घर या ऑफिस बेच के बाकी का भरना पड़ेगा, और अदरवाइज ही विल हैव टू क्लोज डाउन इन बिजनेस एंड रन अवे. So that is the only impact. When I did my articleship long back in 1996, my principal used to teach me कि जब इनकम टैक्स की किसी के यहाँ सर्च होती है तो that firm and that organization grows. Because उसका 2 नंबर का जो पैसा होता है वो सर्कुलेट होके सिस्टम में आ जाता है, एंड therefore the organization grows. Whereas जब जिसके यहाँ सेल्स टैक्स का या वैट का सर्च होता है वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बंद हो जाता है. Because you do not have that much of the profit margin, which is the penalty which is getting imposed. And not only the penalty imposition, but also the prosecution is there. आपको जेल के भी provisions हैं. You can be behind the bars for 5 years. So therefore, last which I have touched upon is something which is very important. GST way forward would be practicing as an advisor, real-time advisor. And for that practice, you need to have a skill of all those 4 which I have touched upon. I am just trying to recapitulate and then rest my deliberation. 1, litigation is a way forward. 2, artificial intelligence, but for drafting of reply to the notices or general drafting, but not the appeals, because that artificial intelligence tool may not be in a position to support the appeals. Yes, it may be in a position to support the research. 3rd, the knowledge of international VAT laws vis-a-vis Indian GST law. Fourth, knowledge of Indian GST law vis-a-vis all the allied laws that is applicable. इसीलिए आपको सीए के करिकुलम में, कंपनी सेक्रेटरीशिप के करिकुलम में मल्टीपल लॉस पढ़ाए जाते हैं, मर्केंटाइल लॉ, कमर्शियल लॉ के नाम पे. That is the purpose, because you need to have the knowledge of Transfer of Property Act, Contract Act, all those are mandatory. Indian Evidence Act, everything is mandatory, and therefore to practice, unless you have knowledge of all these four, you cannot practice the fifth, which is something which is very important. अगर आप ये चार मिस कर जाएंगे तो जो फिफ्थ, जो आपका आगे ब्रेड एंड बटर होने वाला है, जो आपको एक इंडियन ब्रांड बनाएगा, who can make you a stalwart in the field of GST, if you want to practice in GST after completing your chartered accountancy, would be advisory, a real time advisory. Forget litigation, forget everything. It is going to be advisory who is going to play the very, very important and vital role in your career. Because everything cannot be a litigator, everyone cannot be a litigator, but every chartered accountant can be a very good advisor. So therefore real time advice. अगर ये चार चीजें आप नहीं कर पाते हो तो पांचवी आप नहीं कर पाओगे. This is my view. So therefore please pay importance, give importance, pay attention to learn litigation aspects, to learn artificial intelligence, how to apply that artificial intelligence in your day-to-day GST applications or GST practice. Third, you need to learn the international VAT laws along with Indian GST law for drafting the contracts or helping the multinationals. Fourth, you need to have the knowledge of allied laws along with GST law. And fifth, combining all these four aspects, you can practice as an advisor, which is the way forward and which is going to be the future of this particular profession when it comes to GST. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Avinash Poddar, sir, for your insightful words.
So guys, now we all know the benefits of GST.
अब जीएसटी के फायदे के चर्चे हर जबान पर सबको मालूम है और सबको खबर हो गई. Now I would like to request CA CCM Purushottam Khandelwal sir to felicitate CA Dr. Avinash Poddar sir on dais. Guys, give a big round of applause.
Now I would like to request Mr. Vallabh Iyer to give a vote of thanks.
Yes, thank you so much CA Dr. Avinash Poddar sir for providing your insights and your perspectives for the future of GST practice, and I am sure people in the audience would have benefited from it. And it is very easy to go to the traditional return filing practice, monthly rotation of the customers, but to tackle litigation, tackle consulting, that is something new. And to even think in that direction, to even make efforts to learn in that direction, it is very necessary to have insights, to have the guidance, to have keynotes from a learned faculty, from a learned profession like our Avinash sir. So thank you so much sir for the knowledge packed interactive and session. Thank you so much.